And hello and welcome back to Dwarf Fortress and to Cattenvîr. Yes, one of the very first things you're likely to have noticed is we have a graphical tile set. That is Iron Hand 16. There will be a link in the video description for those who would like to pick this up for themselves. The second thing you are most likely to have noticed is there is background music. Now, Dwarf Fortress does have background music. It has two tracks, one that plays on the main menu and one that plays in-game. Typically, I think there are only those two, and only one of them plays when you're actually playing the game. And it's got a loop, it loops well, and honestly, I actually quite like it. But because I record 30-minute episodes, and because it would be just this one track looping, I've gone and looked for some free music that I can have playing in the background. I think I found a nice selection of things that'll be dwarvish or fantasy-ish and will go along with this. This is from Kevin MacLeod, or MacLeod, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. There will be a link to his website in the bottom as well. And yes, everything is going well so far. I am, of course, lying, and the only reason I'm making a point of saying everything is going well is because it hasn't gone well. I had a few problems getting everything set up. But pro tip, read the instructions. Seriously, if you think you know better, take a step back, slap yourself in the face with a fish, then come back and read the instructions and do what they say. Trust me on this. Or maybe that's just me. But maybe slap yourself in the fish anyway. It's quite fun, I'm told. Right. One thing I'm going to quickly cover before I do anything else. You'll notice on the very right that I have the build menu up. You can press tab to cycle through these. You can have the little mini-map or the large menu. Or you can make it even larger so that when you've got menus open on the side, the text will be okay. I play with that off. If you've got the screen real estate, to have that open whilst you've got a lot of your visible area on show, then by all means. Because I'm going to be uploading this to 720p, I'm restricting the viewport to 720 height, so 1280 by 720, so I don't have that much screen real estate at the moment, but that was just a quick heads up. Now, let's have a quick look at our Embark location. So you can use the mouse, you can zoom with it, and there we go. That's the full Embark there. So we've got mountains to the south of us, the brook to the north, and a little bit of field. Well, a lot, I guess. This is a 3x3 Embark, and I know for some that is fairly small. What you're looking at now is I'm cycling through the height. That's how you look at alternate height levels in this game. You move up and down, and you can see as the mountains pierce into the clouds there and then come back down to earth. There's a reason why I've specifically selected a 3x3. The main reason is that I feel that having a very large Embark area gives you access to so many resources that you don't really have to think too hard about what you're using and when you're using them. One of the things that I quite like about Dwarf Fortress is you can be in a situation where you do have to really keep a very tight and efficient fort. For example, making to compare something in Nemoria where you could have groves of trees, that you could be quite self-sufficient in terms of wood. Yes, in winter they didn't grow, but by and large you could just wall yourself in through those months and just carry on. Whereas in Dwarf Fortress you can't expressly plant trees, and when you do, they take a lot longer than a month or a season to mature. What will happen is trees will grow spontaneously across biomes which support them. So here, if we clear cut this entire area, in time trees would grow. The fact that there are no trees and no shrubs on this part, the very far right, means that they just cannot survive there, and they won't survive there. There's a layer of soil there, certainly, but I think that's part of the mountainous or hilly biome. Now over here, what we're going to have to do is, I will be building a wall. And I kind of had a look around the map. I think this kind of gate area here is quite nice. So what I'll probably do is have a wall coming up here at some point, and then across, and then down again. But that won't give us very much land for cultivating trees, because the trees will grow on their own, like I said. So I just like having a tighter area because it makes you think a little bit more. We're going to have to rely on traders. It's going to force us to investigate the caverns earlier because these resources will run out, and they'll run out quite quickly if we're building up to accommodate more and more migrants, because wood is used for beds and lots of other things, and for making charcoal. So that is one reason why I've got a less than enormous Embark location. I'm fairly certain that these days the size of the Embark location doesn't hit your performance of the game too badly. Modern machines and a lot of improvements that have been made in the game have made that consideration less of an issue. But that is all done now, so we'll have a quick look at our dwarves. I've gone ahead and given them specific roles. I've used dwarf therapists for this. I'm not going to go into that too much except when I'm actually using it. But it is a third-party tool that allows you to just manage your dwarves, basically. And it, especially when you get a lot of dwarves, like 50 or 100 dwarves, I can't see playing the game normally, just with the in-game menu system very efficient at that point. It's certainly not fun because you will be trawling through these things, whereas with Dwarf Therapist you can just have like 2 clicks and it'll sort all of this out. A lot of it's just repetitive tasks, but I will touch on it when we've got some migrants. But suffice to say, I've set our initial 7 dwarves up with a couple of professions just to make sure that everything is going to get done that needs to get done. Now then, we're going to unpause the game, and they're not going to do very much of anything because we haven't told them to do anything. So first port of call, we're going to set up some things so we can get some tools made, because as you may recall, we didn't actually bring any with us. So we need a furnace. So we want E there. We want a wood furnace. This is going to allow us to make some charcoal. And then we want a smelter. I'm just going to build these temporarily right next to the wagon that we've got that has got all of our supplies in it. And then we're going to need a metalsmith's forge. There we go. Now, they should hurry up and start building that, and if we're lucky, none of the animals will step in the way and cause them to suspend construction. Looks like they're going pretty quick. We might actually get through this without it. No! Cancel construction. Damn it. Which one has been suspended? This one? Yes. Okay, come on. Chop, chop. What about this one? Is that one suspended as well? Yes, it is. Bloody hell. Come on, Plump. You can do it. Don't let me down. No. Okay, fine. Right, we're going to have to build a pasture then. So you press I to bring up the zones control. And we're going to make a small zone over here. So press enter there, press enter here, and we'll hash out a zone. Now we're going to want this to be a pen and pasture. And the number in the brackets is telling you how many tiles in the selected area will be useful for the type of purpose that you're selecting. Now press capital N to bring up the assignment. We're going to assign all of our animals to the zone here. Wow. We've got a 2-humped camel. That's fantastic. I don't know why it's fantastic, but I think it is. It's a shame we haven't got any koalas, though. I know my namesake would be quite happy with a couple of koalas. Right. Only the wood furnace is working, so Plump, though, should be able to get everything finished. I think we need Evelyn to finish off the forge there, the smelter. But it looks like she's got that done now. Right, we want Plump to make a bunch of charcoal for us. We're going to need 4 pieces of charcoal to smelt the tetrahedrite we've got. So we'll make 4 of that. Yeah, 4 charcoal there, and then we're going to need 2 for the... 1 for the pick and 1 for the battle axe. So Plumpy's going to start hauling wood from the wagon, and whilst he's doing that, we're going to set up a little stockpile and have people pull all of the goods out of the wagon. And then we can pull the wagon apart and salvage the wood that it's made of. So custom stockpile, custom settings. This is so that I can enable a stockpile that has everything in it. I'm not going to be fancy and make up separate stockpiles right now because it's going to be very temporary. The only thing when we don't want to be stored is refuse. Well, we do. We don't want dead bodies and rotting pieces of meat next to our food, but we're perfectly happy to have skulls, bones, shells, teeth, horns, and hooves there because they are crafting materials. I very much doubt we're going to get any of them in the meantime, but we'll account for it anyway. And if we just make the... let's make it about this big. There we go. That's going to be our stockpile. So everyone should... Oh, wait, no. They won't do it just yet. If you press Q, you can have a look at a building's details. And this one is currently set to have wheelbarrows in it. Now, someone did point this out to me in the comments of the previous episode, and I deeply thank you for that. If a stockpile has wheelbarrows associated with it, then only the things will only be hauled to it in that wheelbarrow. So if you've only got one wheelbarrow, only one person can be hauling to that stockpile at any given time. It will allow them to carry heavy things much, much faster, but obviously if there's only one person, because I think we've only got one wheelbarrow at the moment anyway, it's going to ultimately slow everything down. So we'll just take that wheelbarrow away, and hopefully that will mean that everyone will get involved in hauling stuff over there, which is what we want. Now, while that's going on, I'm going to have flying staplers with the designate menu, D, and then P for gather plants. And we're going to have her start to gather some food from the local fauna and flora. Well, just the flora for now. She is set up to take care of animals, but we don't really have anything that would like produce milk or anything just yet. So yeah, that'll be for the future. Now, the important thing to note about the pasture is that if you've got herbivores in amongst your animals, they are going to need a pasture that's got grass, and they will eat the grass. So you want a fairly large pasture so the grass can regrow and so that the animals won't starve. I don't think the turkey hens need grass. I'm not sure about that though. But they will need nesting boxes before they actually start to produce any eggs. Now, Plump is still working. Oops, I brought up the wrong menu there. We want to see, right, he's almost finished with that, and he's working on the last task. So we can go ahead and tell him to smelt the tetrahedrite ore. We'll make that a repeat task, so he'll work on that for us. And while he's doing that, yeah, we could probably start having a look at a few other things. I think we should start... I usually like to start with a little base camp, rather than actually have... start like off the main hall, which I'm building, and I'm making all sorts of embellishments and stuff, and then I've got this tiny little pokey dormitory and temporary dining hall built off of, which kind of, I don't know, messes with me a little bit. We'll have a little base camp just for our founding dwarves to use initially. So that room would have enough for 4, 6, 8 beds. Oh, I need to bring that over. And we'll have a door there. Now, this doesn't need to be fancy at all. It is a very temporary base. But it will allow us to do a few things. Firstly, I want to have a space for our kitchen and distillery, because I want to get them up and running pretty soon. And we'll have a little stockpile area for that as well. Like I said, this is going to be a fairly small place. Let's make a dining hall. Just big enough for what we need it to do. And we'll have... in fact, we don't need to bring that all the way there. We'll just have the way in by here. Right, that'll be ready for when Evelyn gets her pick, which should be fairly soon, I would hope. Plump does need to smelt the tetrahedrite into copper bars and possibly silver bars first. And you may notice that he is moving slowly when he's carrying the ore, because the ore is much like a rock, very, very heavy. That would have benefited him if he'd had a wheelbarrow, but obviously for now, that will have to wait. He may have made enough now for us to start by making a pick. Now, a pick is considered a weapon, and as I mentioned before, axes are axes are axes. They're basically battle axes. You don't have a separate tool for chopping down wood, so bear that in mind when you're looking for tools. The axe and the pickaxe are located in the weapons area. So hopefully Plump will get that sorted. And while he's doing that, and once Evelyn gets her pick and starts work, I'm going to bring up Dwarf Therapist just so you can see how this works while we're waiting on that. So I'm just going to flick to that. This is the tool that we use. And by we, I mean quite a lot of people who play Dwarf Fortress. I've set up a bunch of custom professions, and if I just click on edit on these, it'll show you how it works. I just basically put a tick against the labors that I want this profession to allow. And then I would go on here, custom profession, and then I'd choose one of these. And what that would do, let's say I wanted to make Plump a druid. it would list here all the changes that were going to happen, and it would highlight them in red. Now, I don't want this to happen, obviously, so I'm going to clear those pending changes. But if I did want it to happen, I would click on Commit Pending Changes, and it would push all of this into the game. Because this and the game are two separate things. This is basically using memory. It knows where the game is storing is writing to the memory on the machine. So it looks in there for the data on what the dwarves' professions are and stuff like that. And you read that by clicking on Read Dwarves, and so on and so forth. And when you push to it, you have to commit the changes, and then it shows up in the game. It's not running in real time. But we'll flip back to the game now, because Plump should have finished with making Evelyn's pickaxe. And there we go. And wonderfully, Evelyn is busy at work clearing out the area there. She's almost got an area ready for a kitchen and a distillery. So let's go ahead and build those. Now, unlike No Moria, for those who've played that and are new to Dwarf Fortress, generally speaking, you don't need things like a carpenter's workshop and a stonemason's first. You need them to build specific items, but generally you can build a workshop just out of basic items. So we want a kitchen first, and we're going to place that about here. The dark X's and the green X's, I believe the green ones show where pathing can work, and the dark ones show physical obstructions. So bear that in mind when you're placing a workshop. If you place it such that there's a door into the room that you're building it in, but one of the dark green X's is next to it, then no one's going to be able to get into your workshop. And let's build this out of shale. And that should go ahead. We'll wait for Evelyn to clean the rest of that room before we try to place the distillery. But once we have that, we will also set up a little stockpile in there just to get some food and stuff inside. I suppose we could have the kitchen while it's there, since Shelab's not doing anything else. Let's get her making some meals. Now, you can render fat, and generally you're going to get fat out of a butcher. We'll prepare, for now, an easy meal. The different types of meal dictate how many different ingredients go into that meal. And as you may remember, we'll stick that on repeat. As you may recall, the crafts... each dwarf had something that they particularly liked, they were particularly fond of. And so if you craft a meal out of those things, for example, if we made... I know this doesn't sound too appeasing, but koala biscuits with strawberry seeds and koala meat, then Aavak would be overjoyed to eat it. Also, someone who happened to like strawberry seeds would be happy to eat it. Now, before we let that go on too much, we need to set some stuff up, and one of those things is in the kitchen. As you can see, there's a bunch of stuff here. These are all of the edibles or drinkables in our fortress, and we can individually turn on or off whether they're available for brewing or cooking. Now, one thing we don't want to be cooked is our booze. We haven't got a stable way of replacing that yet, so we're going to keep that off. And generally, you don't want your seeds to be cooked either. You can do a lot of things here. You can set up animals available to be taken as pets or set them up for slaughter. You can check your stocks. If you have an accurate count of the stocks, you can actually look at exactly what you've got there. Otherwise, it's like a 20 with a question mark. And you'll see that here. We've got a lot of our food stores have got question marks. Now, that's because we don't have a broker, and that's going to be the next thing we're going to set up. To do that, we need to go to the noble menu. Now, as you can see, Aavak has already been made the expedition leader. He doesn't require anything for this role, isn't demanding anything, and hasn't mandated anything. And those last two will typically become important when you've actually got nobility here. Now, we want a few things. First, let's find... Where's Chief Medical Dwarf? Let's replace you with Revocane. As you go through the list, it'll tell you who's got skills for the particular role you're looking at, and Revocane is an adequate diagnostician, so he will be the Chief Medical Dwarf. Doesn't require anything yet. Now, Bookkeeper. If you click S to look at settings, this is how the Bookkeeper keeps track of things. At lowest precision, he's only going to be accurate to... Well, he's not even going to be accurate to the first two significant numbers. He's going to round those up. But it'll always be... the first two significant numbers that are used for the rounding. So 77 becomes 80. 777 becomes 800. 7,777 becomes 8,000, so on and so forth. And as the higher levels of precision, you become more accurate to a greater number of significant numbers. Highest precision is always accurate, but with each higher level of precision, it takes more time for your bookkeeper to balance the books. So we're going to go for medium precision because right now we don't have that much that we need to worry about it, you know, not being accurate on the thousands of levels. So we'll go for that one for now. And we're going to assign Aavak, who's got the only one with relevant skills. So we'll get you set up. We'll do the same for broker and the same for manager. Now, these three all set something up, and it seems that there's a bit of a graphical glitch as I'm moving around. But basically, you notice that he now requires something. If we click on him, it says he needs an office. So we need to build him an office before he can perform the three lower roles, the manager, broker, and bookkeeper. Actually, I don't think broker needs one, but he might. But we don't have an office right yet. Perhaps I'll designate one to be built. Yes, I think that would be a good idea. We'll just get a little office. This is a fairly humdrum little area. It's not particularly nice or anything. It's just functional. And for now, that'll have to do. When I'm actually going to be building on the fort, just as a heads up, I'm quite fond of embellishments, little nooks and crannies, little alcoves and recesses to place statues in, little pillars all over the place. I'm very, very into that. So I'm going to pose the question that I did in the beginning of my No Moria Let's Play, and that is, are people okay with watching me designate that? Or would you rather me cut that out? Because it really doesn't make any difference to me one way or the other. Adding cuts in at editing time is fairly trivial. But I know some people like to see that, and some people don't like. Basically, you know, some people find it boring. Other people like to see people puzzling through the way that they're going to be setting all of that sort of stuff up. Now, I imagine we've got all the tetrahedrite and copper we need, so I need to set up a battle axe so that Metasapia can cut down some trees. And while that's going on, I want to set up 2 new workshops. These ones can be outside, they'll be temporary ones as well as all of our forge stuff. So we'll build the carpenter's workshop there out of shale, and we also want a mason's workshop there out of shale again. Now, I may set up a little stockpile just to have stones be brought a little bit closer. That would probably be a very good idea. Let's make this a stone stockpile then. Stone and wood. Actually, we'll make it a custom one. Change the settings, and we're going to disable everything but stone and wood, because we want this just outside of the areas here, and we want the wheelbarrow to be used for it because these things can be heavy. So we'll set that up, and it should have a wheelbarrow assigned. Yes, it does. Fantastic. Right, stone and wood do not get placed in bins or barrels, so you do tend to need a larger stockpile to store them, but for now that's not going to be too much of a worry for us. Now let's get a distillery built, a still. At that point, we may be able to start turning some of the plants that Flying Staplers is gathering into more booze, which would be fantastic. We'll get that built. And I'll set up a stockpile in just a moment. Have we got these made yet? Yes, we've got the Carpenter's Workshop. That's fantastic. Right, let's get Metasapia out chopping down some trees. Let's just cut the ones close to the stockpile just to make hauling a bit easier. There we go. Wow, Evelyn, you're doing a fantastic job over there. Well done. Once she's finished with that, I think I'll have her build some doors and a table and chair. Well, a couple of tables and chairs, because we're going to have a dining room. But we'll have one table and chair for Aavak to make an office. Now, the way you designate rooms in this is quite different to how you do it in No Moria. In No Moria, you just designate a room. Whereas in Dwarf Fortress, you need to place the functional furniture of that room in the place. And then you create a room around the furniture using the furniture's, menu, I guess. We want, let's see, at least 1 door, 2 doors, 3 doors. We want, let's see, I used to remember what all the keys were. I have one throne and one table. And we'll see where that puts us with our shale stocks. Now, we want a couple of beds as well. We want about 8 beds. So let's stock those up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now that'll give us 1 spare bed, and generally speaking, you don't actually need the same number of beds as you've got dwarves, especially not if you're having them sleep in a dormitory, because they'll just grab any free bed when they happen to be tired, and the dwarves will get tired at different times. Let's set up some brewing. Yeah, go ahead and brew. Now you can extract stuff from plants and process plants, and these will give you different things out of things. Like, yeah, you can mill plants to make flour, you can extract dyes, that sort of thing. But we'll get into that when we're actually needing it. Right now we just want a steady source of booze. And let's get a food and drink stockpile going. So first and foremost, let's disable these things because we don't want them stored. I think food also counts drink. Yes, it does. Let's... Prepared food should go in here. I guess we'll let meat come in. In fact, I guess it doesn't really matter too much right now because we're not going to have these things available to us. So, yeah, that'll do. And we'll just make this stockpile over here and have it then take everything out of the main stockpile that we've got. Now, if you go in here and you click on T, take from a pile or workshop. You can also force a stockpile to give to a pile or workshop. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to take specifically from there. So you can go in there, you look at the bottom, it says taking from stockpile 1. I'm not sure if you can rename them, perhaps you can, but what will happen now is any food or drink will be brought to that stockpile from the other one. It'll actively be taking those things out of it. And so that's the way you can kind of set up stockpile chains in Dwarf Fortress, is by using the take and give from stockpiles. And you can actually make it quite powerful, because you could perhaps have a stockpile which only accepted granite. And you could tell that stockpile to give to a workshop, a mason's workshop, to guarantee that that mason's workshop will only use granite. Because if a workshop has a... I'm not sure about take orders, but I know if a workshop is being fed from a stockpile, then it will only accept from that stockpile. So you can use it to guarantee certain things, but do be aware that it can cause a few problems, because, for example, if you had a forge, which and you were having it fed ore from an ore stockpile, it wouldn't do anything, because the ore stockpile, unless you also set it up to hold charcoal, wouldn't have fuel for the forge. So you'd need to also tell it to be given fuel from a charcoal stockpile, for example, and then it would work. So you do keep your eyes out for that. Now, have you made these beds yet? No? But we do have some doors, so let's go ahead and build a door. Now, you may notice that sometimes my cursor is jumping across the screen. That's because you can either move around with the arrow keys, or if you hold shift, it'll move in much larger increments, which is quite useful. So we'll build a door there. We've got 2 doors, so we'll also build a door up here then in the dormitory. Now, once those are built, then we can actually start placing the other pieces of furniture in there. Have you gone? No, everyone's just pulling things down at the moment. I probably should have limited how many people were going to be hauling stuff. A lot of this will be hauling, and generally I will cut those times when I'm just waiting on stuff to be moved around or built. I will be liberally cutting that out of the recording. But as I said, do leave me comments below just to let me know whether you'd like me to keep designations in and that sort of stuff, where I'm planning something and it's, you know, I'm actually doing something at the time. But yeah, don't worry, you won't be sat there watching me waiting on Plump to forge some armor or anything forever, because somewhere down the line I forgot to set a charcoal stockpile to give it fuel. So yeah, that's it for this episode, because we're coming up to the 30-minute mark. I hope you've enjoyed. We've got a little bit of something on the go. We've got some industries being set up at least, and I think Metasapia is making some beds, which is great. So I'll actually do that as the last thing on this episode. We'll build some beds and make a dormitory. So there's one bed. Now I'll quickly show you how you designate rooms. Just hover over the item, Oh, wow. Actually, it needs to be built first. Okay. I suppose I'm going to be waiting for that to be done first. But it looks like someone's quick on the off the mark with that. Good. Right, now, if you hover over the bed and click R for make bedroom, and then plus and minus to set the size. Now, you'll notice that it's not expanding out down the corridor, and that's because there's a door there. You can set doors to be considered internal, in which case the expansion would have moved through the door. That's why I made the doors first, because without that, as I was expanding the bedroom, it would have been spilling out into the corridor and designating that as part of the bedroom, and didn't want that. So now I've made that. I can assign the bed to someone, which is basically giving them this room, but I don't want to do that. You can make it a barracks, which is like a dormitory for military personnel, or a dormitory. So there we go, dormitory. I can give it a name. I don't want to. There we go. People will now sleep there. I think they may even sleep on the floor rather than sleeping on the floor outside. I don't know if that's true or not, but in the next episode, we will be continuing to build up our little outpost, our base camp, and probably starting on the fort proper, which will be somewhere down here. We'll have a nice big area, and we'll probably start work on removing these ramps and building some fortifications just to keep out the odd ambush or thief. And yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed. I hope you will join me for the next. And as always, do take care.